Efforts by Donald Trump to push a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia could have consequences far beyond this war. The Wall Street Journal warns that a bad deal for Ukraine could trigger a new global nuclear arms race. This is no longer just about territory. It is about a basic rule of the world order. Can a nuclear state attack and destroy a non-nuclear neighbor without punishment and then be rewarded with a deal? In the 90s, Ukraine gave up the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world in exchange for security guarantees. After the annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the full-scale invasion in 2022, those guarantees proved weak. And if Ukraine now is forced to give up the land for the sake of peace, it sends a powerful message to other countries. Without nuclear weapons, you are not truly protected. This is why discussion about building nuclear arsenals are now growing across different regions. South Korea and Japan are watching developments in Ukraine while facing pressure from China. Australia is starting to question how reliable U.S. protection really is. Even Canada is forced to consider the risks posed by U.S. pressure. Kazakhstan, which also gave up nuclear weapons in the past, has both the resources and the security concerns that could push it to reconsider. In Europe, the debate is also returning. Poland and Germany are again discussing the need for their own nuclear guarantees. In Warsaw, officials openly remind everyone that Poland agreed not to develop nuclear weapons in the 90s, only because the U.S. promised NATO membership. And now, when the White House talks about concessions from Ukraine in exchange for peace, many U.S. allies are asking a simple question: can American guarantees really be trusted if they can be changed by politics? For countries that see the aggression of Russia or China, the conclusion is becoming clear. U.S. guarantees may be temporary, but nuclear weapons are permanent. And still, U.S. President Donald Trump says he still believes that Russia's war in Ukraine can be ended. Speaking during a Christmas event at the White House, he said that the United States has already ended 8 wars in the world and is now working and looking for one more, the war of Russia in Ukraine. He said America is back and now is trying to bring peace around the world. But while Washington talks about peace, Ukraine spent another night under attack. Overnight, Russia launched 137 drones at Ukraine. Air defense destroyed 80 of them. 57 drones hit targets in 13 different places. There is damage. So while politicians speak about peace, Ukraine is still under daily and nightly attack. But Trump says he believes the war can be ended.
And America is back, bigger and better, stronger, better than ever before. Think of it. And we're making peace all over the world. We're settling wars at levels that nobody's ever seen before. 8 of them. We're looking for one more. That's Russia, Ukraine, if that's possible. And I think we'll get there eventually.
After Trump's words about a possible end the war, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance shared a similar message. He said that the world may hear good news about the war in Ukraine in the coming weeks. Vance admitted that the failure to end the war quickly was his biggest disappointment. But he added that the process is moving forward and progress has been made. At the same time, Europe is sending a much more careful signal. European leaders warned President Zelensky no deals with Russia without real U.S. security guarantees. So after the big words about peace, the main question is not if, but at what price and with what protection for Ukraine. NATO says Europe can handle its own defense even if some U.S. troops leave, but at the same time warns that Russia may soon test the alliance strength. This was stated by NATO's top commander in Europe, General Alexus Grinkevich. According to him, a reduction of American forces would not weaken Europe's security because Europe and Canada are ready for crisis and unexpected threats. He said that the political tension around peace talks on Ukraine has not affected NATO's readiness and that high defense spending by allies is making the alliance even stronger. However, he also admitted a serious risk that Russia could try to challenge NATO's collective defense in the near future. And this is not just words. The United States has already started reducing its military presence in Eastern Europe. Earlier reports said U.S. troops may be cut in several countries, including Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary and Slovakia. It is now confirmed that about 800 American soldiers have already been withdrawn from Romania. The decision was made by the White House and it's already in force. Officially, European leaders say everything is stable and NATO is functioning well. Poland says the US is fully meeting its obligations. But privately, many European allies are worried about what comes next if Russia moves from threats to real actions. Sanctions have not weakened Vladimir Putin. Instead, they have made him more aggressive. This is the conclusion of Sky News international correspondent Dominique Wahorn. Despite new European sanctions, the Russian leader this week again issued warnings, saying that Russia does not want war, but is ready to respond if Europe provokes it. The world is about to end the fourth year of Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine, but real changes in Western policy remain limited. According to the analysts, the so-called rules-based world order, once protected by the United States, is slowly falling apart. Washington is focusing more on trade and business with Russia than on strong support for Ukraine. At the same time, Ukraine needs more than $100 billion every year to continue fighting. But financial assistance is coming in slowly. European governments are still arguing over how to use frozen Russian assets, and sending their own troops is not even being considered. A British investigation into the Skripal poisoning has already found Putin morally responsible, but without real military and financial pressure, such statements remain only words. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's administration is continuing to engage with Moscow. The US supplies weapons to Ukraine through Europe, while at the same time showing interest in profitable business deals with Russia. Sky News writes that America appears less focused on defending Europe and Ukraine and more focused on making money from the war. During the crackdown on protests in Georgia, authorities may have used a toxic chemical from World War I, according to a BBC investigation. The substance is known as scamide, a weapon developed over a century ago and later abandoned because of its dangerous long-term effects. The protests began after the Georgian government paused its path toward the European Union. Police used water cannons, pepper spray and gas, but many protesters later reported burning skin, breathing problems, vomiting and coughing that lasted for weeks. Some said the pain could not be washed off with water. One doctor who was also sprayed ran a survey among protesters. Nearly half of the respondents said their symptoms lasted more than a month. Some were later examined and showed heart rhythm problems. From Georgian riot police officers told to BBC that a powerful chemical had been tested years ago for use in water cannons. They said its effect was much stronger than normal tear gas and stayed on the skin even after washing. Chemical weapons experts say the symptoms match exposure to scamide. That means protesters were likely exposed to a chemical agent, not just standard crowd control gas. The United Nations has warned that if this is confirmed, it may amount to torture and a serious human rights violation, because riot control tools must only cause short-term effects. Georgia's government dismissed the findings as absurd and said police acted legally. Protests, however, continue almost every night, with people accusing the authorities of rigging elections, moving closer to Russia, and suppressing civil society. That's all for now. For more content, please subscribe.